So today I am pumped and thrilled to host today's conversation with Brad McNamara, the impact-driven entrepreneur behind Freight Farm and Morrissey Market. We'll start with his journey on how he built this innovative food solution and scaled them for impact. Then we'll dive into sourcing strategies to help mobile farmers market operators secure the best produce at the best price. And finally, we'll hear about Morrissey Market on how they can support mobile markets in their operation and help you scale your impact. So, Brad, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
So, Brad, let's dive in. So, let's talk about your entrepreneurial journey and let's pick it up from 2010 when you were on a rooftop trying to get some greenery going, and all of a sudden you and your partner had an idea.
Yeah, so taking it back to 2010, the movement around local food, organic had kind of gone mainstream, and there was a lot of excitement, at least in my mind, of hey, there's a lot of unused real estate in urban centers, a la rooftops. So why not attack that zone and make that into food production space? And I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was great. Spent about a year on a bunch of rooftops talking to building owners, food businesses, greenhouse companies, et cetera, and remained excited about the opportunity, but realized the rooftop was not really uniform, not really accessible, not really financially viable in majority of cases. So it didn't really tick the box for me of something that could make a lot of people into farmers and produce more local food. We could build some cool sort of structures, but in my mind, it wasn't going to have the impact on the food system as a whole.
And your vision is really to empower individuals, organization at that time to become their own farm, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I think through that journey, the realization was that we are in a system that for 100 years or so has been on the agriculture farming side, get big or get out. That's been the mantra. So I really grabbed a hold of the counter narrative of what if we could use emerging technology and innovation to, instead of make a few farmers astronomically bigger, to make millions of people successful local farmers, regardless of where they are, regardless of their expertise as farming, because we were at that point, we're still at that point where, what is it, something like 1% of the country are farmers now? Whereas you go back 150 years, more than half the country, was farming and growing their own food. And there was a real connection to it. And so that really set off a lot of light bulbs in my sort of brain, my soul, what have you, say, okay, the tech isn't there yet. Market's not there yet. Logically, I shouldn't do this, but I have to. And so we did.
And that's the motivation behind impact entrepreneurs, right? It's to see beyond, making a buck. It's the impact that really drives the whole thing. One statistic that came to me not too long ago, I was in DC and Secretary Vilsack was talking about the farmers, and he said 86% of farmers today have a second job so they can continue farming. How crazy is that?
Yeah.
And the average age of a farmer is around 57, 58 years old. So who's taking on this new challenge of growing food for the people and growing food that's healthy, right? I think we're I think we're at the cusp of a system change myself. But anyways, we'll see. It's part of the solution to do the freight farm, the Morrissey market, all of that is part of the solution. So, all right.
No, I mean, we're obviously a little biased, but you're 100% right. It's been a long time coming. I mean, I started thinking about this concept back in 2010, and a lot has changed in the last, 10, 14 years, 15 years now. Wow. And it's true, there's a cultural awareness now that just didn't exist then. And the opportunity, the ability, the acceptance for someone to, what I love is seeing freight farmers who they do something else that they hate and they want to be farmers. There is a generation of people who have said it, they've decided, like, okay, food is really important. I want to be a part of this. I want to relocalize. I want to be in touch with my community. I want all of those things. And to me, that is growing food. That's being a farmer. And so, at least in the Freight Farms network, you see a ton of these, localized impact entrepreneurs, if you will, who are working another job that they're like, it kind of pays the bills for now. I'm going to become a farmer and I'm going to spend my time, focusing on that. And it's kind of the opposite of, sort of generational big farmers, if you will, who are now saying like, well, I am a farmer, but like I can't make money being a farmer, so I got to do something else. There's a whole generation that is coming, and it was also part of the drive to build Morrissey was okay. That part of the wave is happening. What's next? And part of like with like the mobile farmers market, things like that. It's like how to direct traffic and get that connected tissue so that that food can get to people, like the right food to the right people at the right time. Huzzah, we've solved it.
So I think this is a great segue for our next point, which is really about like sourcing advice. So, in an ideal world, the product would be as close or proximity to who's going to eat it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that it keeps its nutrient density, everything about, as fresh as possible. So Freight Farm does that in its own way. Now let's think about, you're an operator. You work with Mobile Farmers Market right now. You help them supply some of their products.
Yep.
Um, so let's take it from somebody who hasn't even started a mobile farmers market,
Mm-hmm.
and like, okay, landscape. What should I look for? Who should I talk to in order to start my kind of sourcing adventure?
Oh yeah. Um, so I mean, there's a pretty tried and true path, for sourcing. Your best bet is you create relationships with your local specialty distributors. That's the category, that's the class that is focused on perishable, all the things you're going to want in a mobile farmers market to get to the people. That's really where it starts. And there's in every market there's a couple at least. Now the trick is trying to figure out who are the good ones, who are good partners, who are going to, truly help you, because you're never going to be the core of their business. These specialty distributors, especially the ones you're going to want to work with, they have a core business. And if it's a restaurant distributor, that is pallet-sized orders going to restaurants, three,
Minimum
four
order.
week. Yeah. And so it's tricky. And one of the things we've tried to solve with Morrissey is that, the most important customers for these distributors, a la the mobile farmers markets, food as medicine programs, etc., they don't fit the perfect mold for that distributor. And they fall into the unfortunate bucket oftentimes of being what I call the kind of the low profit pain in the ass programs that you know, and it's the fact of the matter. It's not something I love, but if you're in a region that, let's say, Morrissey Market doesn't operate in yet, you're gonna want to find a distributor, create a real personal connection, because what's going to drive that is the family ownership or the ownership group of that distributor saying this is important work that has to happen. So you do have to go in hard with your impact, and really, really play on that. And that's why I would say the more the more family control that distributor has. So if you've got three or four specialty distributors, you want to go with the one that, is third, fourth, fifth generation, family operated distributor, because they feel a deep responsibility to that community, very much the same way you do. They just don't really have the mechanism to express it. And as a mobile farmers market, you can say, listen, you've got all this great infrastructure, product, knowledge, so on and so forth. You can't really express that in the way you most want to. Be my partner, be my source, and you can express it directly using your expertise. If it's more of a private equity or corporate owned or larger group, they're beholden more to the metrics than they are to their local community. So I would say, if you're lucky, you find a great family operated specialty distributor and start the relationship there.
So if I sum up your recommendation, so I guess accepting that because you have low volume, it's going
Mm-hmm.
to be a challenge at the beginning. And maybe that the takeaway here is the produce game, specialty crop game is a volume game, right? The more you move, the easier it gets, right?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
building partnerships is a crucial piece and trying to find that alignment, right? Trying to find who would align with your mission is as critical as who you're going to source from, right? Or the product you're going to source.
Yep. Yes.
Um, what about dealing directly with some farmers? What about maybe building partnerships with like maybe a grocery store or somebody who already has some volume and you can like maybe like piggyback on their orders? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, those are two very different tracks there. So in my mind, take them one at a time. If you can establish relationships with local farmers, obviously that's fantastic. Direct to the source. I'd imagine you're even going to struggle with the variations, volume, quality, aesthetics, whatnot, that you see in a local farm. I'm here right now in the Northeast, Boston area, so the seasonal swings are pretty dramatic. The texture, the size, the color of the different local products they vary dramatically week to week, and that's fine if you have a population and customer base that is looking for that and is there. The irony there is sometimes a local product is more expensive. It's just that farmer itself is not much as it's not as at scale as much as some of the more commodity type products. So that is a reality of the game. Again, it becomes a relationship piece where you're almost the opposite of your relationship with a distributor there, in terms of, you're like, listen, I have a truck that needs to get filled every single day or week or whatever your cadence is. So I need to have a mechanism where I can get product, and I need to provide somewhat of a consistent experience for my customer, because you want a customer that's coming and like, all right, I go to my mobile market because I'm going to get, and I know I'm going to get X, Y, and Z. And if I've always got X, Y, and Z, I'll also shop around the fringes and get some other things. But if it's constant variety, I found that kind of falls off. So it's kind of the opposite, where you're now kind of trying to be the good partner to the farmer and
Mhm.
find a way to slot that in if the customer that you serve really values it.
So
I think on the other side is the grocery partnership, which is a completely different conversation.
it's a different, yeah, I guess it's to build that relationship too, right? To find a grocer that aligns with your mission and is willing to put up with, I need half a case of beets. Can you kind of take the other half?
Mhm.
Like, you have small orders, and you want to reduce your waste, and maybe some takeaway from what you mentioned about the farming or working directly with a farm is obviously, we're both big fans of, vote with your money, I guess, and spend, impact work in
Mhm.
general. But some local farms are much smaller and they have to make more money when they sell their products, and that reflects directly with the people you're serving. And so it's almost, you have to choose your battle, right? Are you trying to make product affordable and accessible to those in which the financial situation is the primary issue?
Mhm. Mhm.
Or you're trying to help a local farmer at the same time, and those would be sometimes maybe competing goals. So you have to pick which one you're gonna work with. And sometimes there's programs to subsidize buying local food too. So there's some really good programs there. Um, yeah. Okay. So let's talk a bit more about Morrissey Market. Let's see how you currently operate. Maybe let the where it started, where you're at now, kind of the vision of where you want to bring this, and then how that helps potentially can help mobile market get some products.
Yeah. So the journey to Morrissey Market, it's kind of a culmination of my life's work in a number of different ways. And so I got exposed to a lot of these specialty distributors across the country in my freight farms work, because I was constantly exploring how do we bridge that gap as freight farms, where we provide the ability for these farmers to get started and start growing, but for them to have a successful business, they got stuck in this what is referred to as a small farmer's paradox of, all right, if I'm not growing and I'm not selling, I'm just in my truck driving around all day. I'm not doing either one of the parts of my business that matter really well. And so that's where distribution comes in. And so I was fortunate to know a few specialty distributors, they'd become friends, they'd become mentors, investors, customers. So spending a lot of time with these folks. And it's a whole part of the food system that I just didn't understand. And not because I hadn't tried, I wasn't smart. I repeatedly would go to these distributors, And I'd go with this academic understanding of like, okay, so the food's grown here and it goes here, and then inevitably one of them would kind of throw their arm around me and they're like, let's take a walk. And we walk their warehouse, and would explain to me, this is how it actually works. This is where the money flows. This is who makes money. This is who doesn't make money. And really get into it. Like, wow, there is a complex organism here that does a couple things really well, and that's what they've honed in on over generations. And so I got to know that over a decade or so. And then during the pandemic, because I had become friends with some of these distributors, I got pulled in really interesting conversations as they were taking on the USDA sort of farm to family box program. And I'm on the phone with these guys and saying, wow, like we've scaled this up. We're doing 10,000, perishable boxes a day. This is fantastic. And that's something that 6 months before, if you would ask them if that was even a possibility, they would have said absolutely not. So there was this kind of for the future of food, there was a benefit that time and that program kind of broke their operational brain of, well, we could actually do this. And it sparked a number of connections in my brain as well, where I said, listen, I've seen so many great businesses with phenomenal missions that are based around perishable food that get to a certain scale and then they hit a wall because the ultimate value proposition is a hyper perishable piece of food, that might have a 24-hour shelf life or something like that, that needs to move at volume and velocity and have some type of economics that make any type of sense to keep going. And you see so many like meal kit companies, grocery delivery companies, et cetera, that were kind of took the old tech mantra and tried to apply it to food, where like we'll get volume and velocity first and we'll figure out economics once we're at $100 million. And those of us in the food space are like, that's not how food works. The economics have to work from day one and they have to scale with you. And so what I realized was that there were these great businesses, these generational distributors in every market that were super connected to their local community that had spent 50, 60, 70, sometimes 100 plus years, and all the while investing in state-of-the-art infrastructure. So you go to these warehouses, multiple temperature zones, automation, all these other things. You go, oh my gosh, I had no idea, but they had the capacity to do such amazing work when it came to perishable food. I said, why is no one tapped into this? And so that was kind of the big, I'll call it aha moment for me. You're the answer to so many questions. And then Morrissey was essentially the exercise of this engine is the answer to so many important questions. Which one do we answer first? And that's really where kind of we built our layer, we built our engine with them to then say, okay, food is medicine, important. That's where we should live. That's where we should focus. That's where we can have the greatest impact with this really important, system.
And so it's connecting the dots, right? It's like you have the capacity, right? You've noticed there's a huge capacity. They have the technology. They've been investing in that. They're invested for sometimes many generation. So let's translate that into for a mobile market, let's say. So right now, the I guess most of your business could be at the box, right? It's like packing, the making sure that the food is medicine box. But
Yeah.
from a mobile market, like I need maybe something every couple days. I need a pallet every couple days or something, right? You would come in and be like, okay, I can help you. I guess tell me, how would that work?
Yeah. No, so I mean, the mobile market fits really nicely into our convenience store fresh program, where fresh produce and food is a growth area for gas station convenience stores. Started with the basket of bananas on the counter, and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, I am hungry. I'm grabbing a snack. I'd much rather, if I have the choice, get something fresh and healthy rather than all this processed stuff."
And the banana story is a whole story on its own. Why
Yeah,
it's so cheap and why we have all access to that. Yeah, but keep going.
exactly. But so in terms of a mobile market, I mean, where we're able to be helpful is the way Morrissey works is the distributor itself, their core business is this pallet-sized order to restaurants, 3, 4, 5 days a week. That's their core. That's what they're really good at. So what we built was a system to sit on top that allows that same infrastructure to go from palletized orders to curated ready ship orders. And, in the food as medicine space, that works perfectly. It's a curated grocery bundle. It's a curated, produce prescription, X, Y, Z, and we handle all of that for the front end. You call it customer partner. So essentially, they're just drop shipping the back end programming, kind of like fulfilled by Amazon, but for perishable food. On the mobile market, what's interesting is inevitably your orders are going to be small, and so it's not going to be a pallet of X, Y, and Z. It's going to be, can I get a case? Can I get a pint? Can I get a half? And our system is set up really well, so we do that for a group of convenience stores right now. So there's like 1,500 of them in the Northeast, who are growing slow and steady. They're perishable, fresh programming. But yeah, I need 2 bunch bananas. I need, 7 apple, that sort of thing where, a distributor is going to look at that and go, absolutely not.
No,
Just
yeah, we're
plain.
not.
Whereas, when we put that through the Morrissey system, they see just, okay, oh, cool. Morrissey took 211 cases of apples, 56, cases of bananas, blah, 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 blah. They're not concerned with how many went where and how. We take all that heavy lift off. And so for the mobile markets, that's really that's where our power lies, is sort of aggregating it with all the other small orders. So the distributor is passing along, the best possible price, the highest quality product. And it's also a timing thing. Whereas if you're a low volume, low profit, kind of pain in the ass program for a distributor, they'll get to it. But the problem is they have to prioritize the things that keep the lights on. And so that's going to be all the core programming. So, if they have a big day, you're at the bottom of the list. And if you need your order out, to you by 11 a.m. to get on the road, et cetera, and they're like, hey, we're jammed, we're not going to get it out till 2, you're kind of stuck. And so we set up Morrissey to solve that problem for our customers.
So so the takeaway here is the nature of the product that we deal with, the short lifespan, the shelf life, makes it a very unique business in the sense, like you were saying, the economics needs to make sense from day one. There's no argument about that. Now, when you start with a program and you have small orders, you will see pain. You will see growing pains in this sense, but then Morrissey Market and the Morrissey Markets of the world that can break down, that can make this more accessible in a smaller order, a small fashion that aligns with your vision, which is really important, right? You'll go above and beyond to serve the programs that are doing food as medicine or a food access program because that's part of your DNA and the fiber of the company, right? So so alignment is very important. Being realistic about where you're at. So is your small program and you're a pain in the butt? Well, you know what? You'll have to accept that and work around that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yep.
you can be able to scale with a Morrissey Market, for example, as you go. You maybe have small order, but you can get to a pallet size, every couple of days, depending on your program. If it grows, then you can scale with them. And the economies of scale are quite, I would say, quite drastic when you get to like the more you order, the easier it gets, I guess, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's exactly that. I mean, the ideal business for a perishable commodity type operation is to have the product sold before it's ever even grown or picked. And when it comes to, especially at a retail outlet, a market, static market or mobile market alike, that demand is not static. That demand is not preordained. So somebody takes the risk on that. And where does that risk fall? And that's where it is really tricky. And so when it comes to being a mobile market, if you can attach yourself and via Morrissey or get your own relationship with a distributor, they've got such volume that's flowing, and they've got so many channels for that product to go that they inevitably kind of intrinsically take that risk on of that fluctuation that you couldn't take on. I mean, it'd be great if we could run mobile markets where you said, okay, once a month, I'm going to buy a pallet of strawberries, and then, I'm going to run through it for the month. That'd be great. That just doesn't work, and so that's the inherent difficulty in the business. And so it's basically, who has the capacity to take on that risk and mitigate it for themselves and for you. And that, in a big piece, that's where Morrissey was able to kind of step in and say, hey, they have this big sort of engine warehousing volume. I was use the analogy of a river. These distributors have direct relationships with big national farms, regional farms, local farms. It's all being brought in, and it becomes this fast moving river of really high quality stuff at the best possible price, just flowing through there. And so, basically we set up, base camp on the shore and said, okay, that's your core operation. We're going to put a small tube in here, and a little bit of that's going to flow off, but if you take the tube out, it's fine because the water just keeps flowing. And so we put a number of tubes in that then we route to, food as medicine programs or mobile market or convenience stores, and modulate that flow and all of that, or take it out of the river, when need be, because our mobile market partner, there are periods of the time when they need to shut down, for a week or two. Okay, let's shut that off. That sort of thing. That technically, if you're looking to get into it, a mobile market could do that for themselves. Could hire up a team, could build the expertise and the relationships and have a whole procurement, ops, inventory management type team.
But you need the volume, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, then, that's where, and, on the Morrissey side, I love it, and, we're seeing it, it's going to happen more and more, but some of our customers are going to move to that point where they get to a volume point where they're like, listen, I am ordering, a pallet of strawberries 3 times a week. I'm like, cool. Distributor's going to love that business directly. Don't work with us. Work with us on the rest of the variety where you need 3, 6, 1 bundle, what have you. And, eventually get more sophisticated where the mobile market then shifts to, okay, I'm going to go direct because I know I have the volume behind me. I have the track record, the data, the history to basically, say, I need a pallet of strawberries. Okay, this is good. Great. Get it in here. I'm going to have Morrissey for this, variety. And that's, one of the areas that has been fun, I would say, for the team on the Morrissey side to explore is understand the use cases where our optionality in sourcing is somewhat unbounded. We're staring at a distributor network that we're part of, that we've built, that has 200,000 SKUs of all these different perishable items. So, and we're like, ooh, kid in a perishable store, say candy store, but that doesn't really work.
Can you give us an overview quickly on the amount of food that goes through like the terminal that where you work, I guess. Like you're talking about this river, just so people can understand, like physically, like the amount of food that comes in.
Yeah, no. So I mean, physically, like if you were looking, so we have two distributor partner hubs in the Boston market that serve the Northeast. One is in Hyde Park, one is in New Market Square. So New Market Square, small, maybe 5,000 square feet. It's very much like that terminal market type of atmosphere that you would see, where it's everything's moving all at once, and it looks like chaos to the outside. If you live it, it's very organized. You see the matrix that way. Now, our major hub that is our primary hub is in Hyde Park. Now, this is 200,000 square feet of cold store facility. So if you're looking up at so I've gone with walks with the CEO around the building, and it takes about 20 minutes to go around at a brisk walking pace. So like the volume of this facility is ridiculous. And then each area of the facility is broken up into different temperature zones for the different types of food. And so, what's fascinating is there's a constant barrage of 40-foot trailers loading in all night long from West Coast, South, Mexico, Canada, locally, all these things just loading in. And then all day long, there's a litany of 10, 15, 20-foot refrigerated trucks hitting the road, like
last mile,
just heading out for everywhere from Maine to just north of New York City, and just distributing all of that food. Like when I first started to ideate Morrissey Market, I thought the value proposition to the distributor was going to be, hey, listen, we're going to help you make money and we're going to help you save money. And very quickly, I realized that value proposition was half right. in that, we can allow them to take on new business and make more money. One of the distributors said, listen, I don't think you fully grasp. Like, I'll move $1 billion close to worth of apples in a year. So you're not going to contribute some sort of volume that's going to help my pricing. I have the best possible pricing there is on everything that's in my warehouse. No one does more volume than me or has a better volume break than you could get. Like, that's just bar none. What we were able to do was bring in more revenue, but not disrupt the core efficiency of their day-to-day operation. So that's a good example of the size and scope of each one of these hubs.
All right. So in 15 seconds, how can a mobile market reach out to you, and which area are you serving right now? And yeah, just real quick, your pitch.
Yeah, so I mean, reach out to me. It's just Brad at morrisseymarket.com. Pretty straightforward, or morrisseymarket.com. You can find us, pretty active there on my email, LinkedIn. That's the best. That's the best path to get to me. We are very, very active in the Northeast. So, we are active in 35 states total right now. We're onboarding, and almost 100% active in the Midwest. Out of our hub there in Michigan, we're actively onboarding in the South Central area of the country. So think North Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas City, etc. And we've signed a number of distributor partners on the West Coast as well. So by Q2 this year, our national network will be complete and ready to accept partners. So if you're a farmer's market, I would say our focus is the food as medicine space. So, it's going to be a little bit of a square peg round hole to get started. But, that's more setting expectations. We want to have those conversations. A lot of what we learned, even if we're not a perfect fit for you, we've learned so much that we can just share openly, because it doesn't matter to us. We just want you to be successful. So don't hesitate to reach out if you're like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if we're in the right region. If we can't help you right away, we know the distributors that you should talk to that will have the right mindset, are in the right space, and would be, potentially good partners for you. So, if we can't get the business, we want to make the connection for you.
That sounds awesome. I really appreciate your time, Brad. It was a pleasure learning more about your effort and your impact work. I think that was very inspirational. I hope that we've inspired some people today to take on that journey to kind of like, hey, challenge the status quo in your community. Do
Yeah.
something that makes a difference. And yeah, Brad, we'll touch base sure this year. And good luck with the expansion of Morrissey Market. And again, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks a lot. This was a lot of fun. Appreciate the conversation.
All right. Cheers.
Cool. So I guess we go. Cut.